Yeah, I just wanted to do a video on this, which is the Formula RX lever. I'm just going to strip it. I don't have any parts. It wasn't too bad. Sometimes the lever's a little bit slow on the return. Like if you leave it overnight and then go to use it again, on the first return it's kind of really slow like that. And I don't have any olives as well. So I'm going to leave the hose attached, so I'll drain that. So it's basically just going to be a video of me stripping the lever down, so you know what to expect if you have to do it yourself. So yeah, when it comes to the there's fluid in the system. If you did want to drain it, there's a port right here on top, which is a Torx port, which is a T8. And we're just going to undo that, and just be careful because they do use brake fluid. They use 4. or 5.1, I think. So that's obviously a little bit corrosive, so you just got to be careful with that. And also, if your calipers on your bike, potentially it's going to be at a lower point than the lever, so it's more likely that fluid will come to this end. But this one hasn't really been used for a while, so I'm kind of guessing there's not much fluid in there anyway. When it comes to the formula stuff, on the syringes, that's the kind of bit that they have. So yeah, if you kind of try and use the SRAM ones, it's got the same thread on it, but I find that the O-ring's a bit too big, it doesn't really seal very well. So yeah, that's the proper formula end that you'll need. You will need 2 of them if you want to bleed it. One on the lever end, one on this end. So I'm basically just going to try and drag the fluid out. Could probably just pump the brake at this point and then get a little bit more fluid out. At the same time, I'm just going to pull back on the syringe. Just try and hold that lever down so then the fluid can go back in. So hopefully that's most of it. So when we come to disassembling the lever, there shouldn't really be much fluid in the system. There's probably still going to be some in the lever, but yeah, it should be less. There we go. Just get our little grub screw and put that back in. And let go of the lever. And then when you've got these grub screws, you basically just going to do it finger tight until it stops turning, and then just nip that up. They don't need a lot of torque on there, quite easy to damage it, it's only a little bit of thread. Yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're going to strip this RX lever. I did strip it just now, it's very easy. So yeah, anybody that wants to kind of give this a go, I think you should. It's not difficult at all. And the other thing is I like to just strip stuff down and rebuild it before I do a video. And if I find any problems with it, I can kind of highlight that. So yeah, basically what we have here is a bolt that runs through and holds the lever in place, and each side is a 4mm Allen key. So we're just going to grab that. And it just undoes normally. If you've got your ratchet wrench turning the right way, it will undo anyway. And then you're just left with this kind of little bolt here. And that doesn't actually matter, I don't think, which way round that goes back in. So yeah, don't worry too much about that. And then what we have is the lever can basically come away, but it's held on by the reach adjustment screw. And what size is that? I think that's a 2mm. And you're just going to screw that all the way in, and that will let go of the lever after a while. There's your lever off, and then what we're left with is what I would probably say is called a dust seal, which is this rubber seal which stops all crap getting onto like the mechanical parts of the brake lever. So So what we've got is one of these tools, which is basically like a rounded edge and non-sharp edge, so there's less chance of actually puncturing it. So we're going to get it out with that. This thing is quite well seated. There's basically a groove that goes all the way around the lever, and a bit of rubber sits in there, so it's very well seated in there. But once you get one of the edges out, let's get that into a shot. There we go. See, that edge is just coming out now. There we go. See, I think I completely missed that with the camera, but you can see we've just basically got under that little wedge, and then you can just go around the whole thing and remove that. And there is your rubber dust seal, pretty thick, quite substantial one there. And then what you're left with is that, which is basically your reach adjuster. There we go. And then there's a circlip in there, so you're going to need a set of circlip pliers. And just be aware that the spring is actually pushing that way, so when you do take circlips off from levers in general, they can send a lot of this stuff shooting out, so just be aware. You might want to put your thumb over that, or just aim it somewhere where you're going to be able to find the parts again. I think on this one it wasn't too bad when I'd done it before. The other way is obviously just keep pressure on your circlip pliers, keep pushing them down as you do it. Let me get that out of the way. There we go. Oi. And there you go. So the first time I actually done this, this piston wouldn't come out. It was a bit gunky, had loads of slime on it, so I had to just get like an Allen key, and what I did is I just pushed it in and then let it come out, pushed it in, let it come out, and then after a while it worked its way loose. So that was the original problem with the lever, where it was very, very slow to return. So yeah, if you find that your piston is seized in there, you could try that trick of just and then letting go, and then hopefully it will push some of the crap out of the way and then eject itself. These levers are a little bit, not useless, but if it did really get seized in there, you've got no access point. So I'm kind of thinking that's what this silver plate might be for. So that's a possibility with a silver plate, that you may be able to remove this, but I'm not too sure on that one. But anyway, let's get that piston out. Oh yeah, and just be aware that the rubber seal is not right on the edge. There's a rubber seal kind of there, so we can actually grab a plastic part of the piston and not do any damage to it. And there's your RX piston, might be the same on a lot of the other Formula brakes, and that just comes apart like that. There we go, and then as you can see right in the middle, so right there's the actual rubber seal, and this one's in really, really good condition, so I'm happy with that. If you do find it's got a load of crud on there, then obviously clean that off. But if it's cracked or got any splits or tears in it, yeah, it's probably going to need to be replaced. You can get this stuff in the UK. It's quite expensive because it has to be imported from Italy, but it's not the end of the world. So that's that. And then you can see inside the barrel or the master cylinder, you just want to check all these edges, like down here, and make sure that they're all smooth, they're not too badly scored. If you do get ones where they're really badly scored or worn, it might be that the seal, the original seals, even if you bought new ones, they might not work anymore, because the diameter of this area had been kind of increased, probably only by a few microns, but it was just enough that the seals won't seal anymore. So yeah, just make sure it's in decent condition. Obviously you're going to have to test that if you do have a scored barrel, master cylinder, whatever you want to call this area down here. That's your call on that one if you want to try and get pistons and try to replace those pistons. But yeah, there's no real guarantee if it's scored that it's going to work again. The other thing as well is where we removed the circlip from, which if you can focus, there we go. So there's that one there is for the rubber seal, so it's a little groove. And then there's a groove further down which is for the circlip to sit in. If they're full of crap, you should really use a cotton bud and try and clean some of the crap out of there. You could probably use IPA, which is like an alcohol, pure alcohol, 99.9% alcohol, and that will just evaporate by itself. So yeah, that's the other thing as well. There is all the way down there, there's like a black rubber seal. I'm not too sure. I'm kind of thinking it's something to do with this plate and something in here that we can remove, but I'm not diving too deep into that on this lever. But yeah, that's definitely a piece of rubber. You can kind of feel it once you put the tool on there. So yeah, there is that as well. I'd imagine that's just a seal so that when this part of the piston will push up against that and create a kind of a proper seal. So that could be worn as well. So if you look at diagrams for these levers, that's probably a replaceable part, but that looks like a bit of a nightmare to try and get down there and remove a seal and then replace a seal. It'd be quite hard to seat that, I'd imagine. But yeah, we're going to go back onto putting this one back together. Just going to put our piston back together, make sure it's all nice and clean. And that's just going to drop into there like so. There's no point pushing it down yet because we need to get the reach adjuster and the bolt, the washer. Make sure this washer isn't too bent or anything like that, because what's happening over time is as you're pushing on the brake lever, it's basically doing that, and you could find that it kind of wears a bigger hole, or it might wear a hole big enough so this actual ball end might slip through a little bit, so that can be a problem as well. But this is stainless steel, I think, or it might be an aluminium washer. I think it's stainless to me. Put on a magnet, see if we can. I don't know if stainless steel is magnetic. I think it is a little bit, but not a lot. But yeah, that is the other thing. Just make sure that's in good condition. These things are a little bit troublesome. So what you have is a 2mm Allen key slot in something that's already quite small. So if people end up using the wrong Allen keys, they can split these quite easily, and then you won't be able to do the reach adjustment on there. So yeah, that's another thing. Threads look alright. So yeah, we're going to drop that back on, and then we're going to get our circlip pliers. Take a look at your circlip. Almost, there we go. So that's in real nice condition, and that is a piece of steel. So yeah, it's not really rusty or anything like that. It's got a little bit of residue on there I'm going to clean up, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. I'm just going to chuck that onto the circlip pliers like that, so that it's ready to be manipulated into place. This I kind of found a little bit tricky because there is a lot of, well, not a lot, but the spring's pretty strong on the piston compared to some of the other brakes anyway that I've tried. So we're just going to squeeze the circlip together and push down. And what you want to do is just check to see where that circlip is seated. You might find that one end of it's a little bit higher than the other. So what I tend to do is just grab something to prod it with. This is probably not the ideal tool, it's just something I have laying about. It's a little bit too sharp. But yeah, we're just going to push on the circlip and make sure that it's seated in place. And for some reason this camera likes to focus on the T-tail. So yeah, this kind of area here, that's a little bit higher than what we want. It was quite a bit higher. It's almost in the slot for the rubber seal. So we're just going to try and push that down. You might find that I have to get the circlip pliers again and maybe put a bit more force when I'm pushing them. The other thing is you can push on this as well try and alleviate some of that force coming back up. Yeah, so that looks quite a bit better. So yeah, still sitting a little bit high. So just trying to push it into that slot. Might just have to do it where I can't film it. Like straight on, so it won't be a great shot. Seems pretty happy there. And then the other thing that I like to do is just grab the circlip pliers and put one of the tools into one of the holes and just try and turn it around, so that if there's any crud or anything in the groove, we can just try and kind of cut into it and move it out of the way, type of thing. So yeah, once I've done that, I'm pretty happy that it's seated properly. And the other thing is as well, you could just push on that rod a couple of times. So put the Allen key in there and just make sure that the circlip stays in place and holds what it needs to hold in place. The other thing you can push on there and just have a look at the washer as well. And if you push on that and the washer drops, it might be that the circlip's a little bit too high and the washer's not seated in the right place, but that washer's quite happy to stay where it is. So I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty happy with it. It does look a little bit like it's too high. No, it kind of looks alright. I think I'm just being a little bit paranoid about it. So we go on to a little rubber seal, which when I first did this I thought it was going to be a bit of a nightmare to get that back in. That just goes on top like so, and then we use this tool again. We're just going to push that down, and once we kind of get to that point, just start tucking some of the edges underneath. And it's a bit like when you remove it, once you get one of the edges under, you've got a bit more space then to work with it. You can actually use your hands, I think, and just push it into place. So yeah, we've kind of got that little edge underneath now. Just try and work around. Yeah, just go around that and just check that it's all looks like it's seated nicely. There's no like, it's nice and smooth, it's flat, and there's no like bobbles in the rubber. You could probably get away with using some of the Hunter lube on that, just to get that to slide into place. So yeah, we'll just move on to putting the lever back on. So with this lever, it basically has to go that way. There we go. Almost had it on the wrong way. Could you put it on the wrong way? Would that work? No, because the bolt won't line up. So yeah, only goes on one way. Doesn't give you the option to put it on the wrong way. Just easiest way I found was to thread the Allen key through that slot and then to line it up there. And just back that off. Just let the threads go through the lever. And then once it's got enough of the thread through, you can use this end. There we go. And then the final thing is the bolt. So I made an assumption that it didn't really matter which way around this bolt goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that into there. And we're going to drop that that into that side, and you can see that that's quite happy. And if we take that out and just reverse it, and we'll put this in the bottom part. Yeah, you can see that's quite happy as well. So yeah, doesn't seem like it really cares what way around that bolt goes. And I'm not really going to do it that tight. I'm just going to nip that up. And that's that. And hopefully our lever still moves, hasn't got compressed too much. Yeah, so that's a lot smoother than it was. So what I will do is bleed it and then show you it working. Yeah, so what I've done now is I've obviously put everything back together, bled the system, and then now we have our lever. I'm just going to put a disc between the pads just to kind of simulate that it's on the bike. And then we're just going to squeeze that once, and that will get the fluid pushing the pistons out. And then you can basically see that that's bled up perfectly. And we've got a nice kind of normal snappy return on the lever. If I remove the disc as well, just didn't want the pistons come out too far. You can see that's nice and smooth. So yeah, it's pretty simple, straightforward to work on this stuff.